Okay, so you're in a hurry, I guess, because you don't want to watch the full video. There is a full video on this, you know that, right? But this is better than nothing. So this video is all about how to tune your engine from a rich setting. And I do it in two different ways. First, I don't know my idle gap, and then I know my idle gap, and I'll show you how much easier it is. So please, if this video is helpful, watch the whole thing. Trust me, it is long, but it's valuable. There is a way to tune the engine where there is no double idle. It can just sit there and idle. Well, maybe not forever, but a very long time. Longer than you would ever need it to idle in a race. And then you just get on the gas, revs go up, everything's fine. So let's get into that actually. How do you do that? So now I'm going to show you how to tune an engine from a rich setting. Now, one question that people ask a lot is, do you have the sort of factory settings of an engine? Or they ask for some kind of magic setting like measuring needles or how many turns out from all the way closed. And I never really believed in that, because there's no way to tell someone where to put their needles so that the engine will run right. Except this one, the mid-range. On an OS 21J, you measure this, you make it 0.1 millimeters in from flush. And I don't seriously need to mention the idle stop screw, do I? You know this already. 0.45 to 0.55. Start off with a 0.5 millimeter idle gap. It's not possible, you know, that you run different fuels at different locations, altitudes, temperature, humidity, weather, like it doesn't work that way. What you want to do is you just want to start from the rich side. So make sure your high-speed needle and low-speed needle are rich and the idle gap is big enough, you know. So I think manufacturers actually offer that information, like break-in settings. So just do that and then start tuning. So this is a video of me tuning an engine like that. So I know the needles are rich and I start tuning. But key thing, I don't know where the idle gap is. This is how most people tune. The idle gap's big. I don't know how big. Another important point is the amount that you adjust the needles. How much do you actually turn them? Well, it's good to imagine a clock face around the needle. And then when you adjust, you only adjust about 1 hour or 5 minutes, either way. And then when you are really close to the perfect adjustment, you're literally just adjusting the width of the slit in the screw. So maybe just 1 minute, just to get the perfect setting. So adjusting high-speed needle first, lowering idle a bit. It's not really revving up. Idle is dropping. So I lean out the low-speed needle. Idle is still dropping. So I lean out the low speed needle more. I lower the idle. So remember, as you lean out the low speed needle, the RPM at idle will stay higher. So you have to reduce the idle gap. So there I reduce the idle gap some more. not quite revving up. So I leaned that high-speed needle just there. So you can hear the RPM is getting higher, it's getting better. Smaller idle gap, lower idle. So there I waited a bit, just let it idle. It does idle steadily, but then I get on the gas and it still seems that the engine is loading up, that it's rich. So I lean the low speed needle some more. Now can you hear the idle is a bit high, so I think I'm gonna lower the idle, so reduce the idle gap. No, still leaning out the low speed. Okay, there you go. Okay, so there you go. So now the engine seems fine, but it was already good a while ago. I just kept leaning out the low speed, lowering the idle, leaning out the low speed, lowering the idle, because I know that had I left it like it was a bit earlier, let's go back a bit, it would have run fine, but it would have had that double idle. Like this could already be like, oh, it's okay. But I'm still leaning out the low speed needle. And I'm still reducing the idle gap. And that's because I want to achieve the smallest idle gap that works. That's what I'm doing here. It's iteration, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now the same thing, except now I'm tuning an engine where I know the idle gap. So I set the idle gap here to 0.5 millimeters. And since I did that, I don't need to touch the idle stop screw. I don't need to change the idle gap. I know where it is. I'm leaving it. I'm happy with it. So to set the idle, I'm just going to adjust the low speed needle. And then the high speed needle, I'm just going to adjust that for maximum revs. So let's watch that. So as you can hear, the idle is super low. It's almost not running. So I'm going to lean the low speed needle now to raise the idle. I'm going to lean the top end. So I just kept leaning the top end to where it's sort of ballpark. It's not perfect yet, but it's close enough. And the idle is still very low. It sounds like the engine is going to stop, so I'm going to lean the low speed needle. Still leaning it more. Leaning the high-speed needle a bit. Idle sounds good. Revs pick up nicely. High speed needle is good. Do you see how much easier that was? Because I know where the idle gap is. I know it's right. I just need to set the idle correctly with the low speed needle and the maximum revs with the high speed needle. Boom, the engine's gonna run. There's not gonna be any two-stage idle. And it's just way easier. So I definitely recommend this way of tuning your engines. Okay, I think that was it. Yep, that's it.